Charger fans, you know what time it is. It's that time again. 2-0, and we are ready to steal away the week. Let's go and bolt the fuck up! Bolt up, Bolt fam. Appreciate all of you guys for joining us here on this edition, the first ever Syndicate Sports collaboration. I'm excited about this one. Why? Because we got ourselves a trench warfare ball game between the LA Chargers and the Pittsburgh Steelers. As, of course, yours truly, Jake Silva for the Chargers Syndicate here, giving you everything, all LA Chargers news and more. If it is your first time up on the channel, I encourage you guys, don't be shy. Don't be afraid. I know you guys have high voltage. You want to show off in the chat. That's where you got to like. You got to subscribe. You got to hit the bell button to keep you up to date on future and past live streams, videos, and more. And so we are joined by one of Pittsburgh's very own, Pittsburgh Steelers Syndicate, my man, DeWaylen Butler, the Arsenal DB, my guy. What's going good, man?
So do the towel swing.
Oh, man, get that thing up out of here. How are you feeling about this matchup, though, man? I mean, honestly, I feel like this is honestly going to be a trench warfare type of game on both sides because the fact of you're going up against arguably the two best defenses in 2 weeks already. And where the run game for the Steelers it's been immaculate for the run defense. And the same thing that goes for the Chargers. The only question mark, though, is will Justin Herbert be healthy? And that's the part that, like, a lot of Charger fans are very skeptical of. How would you honestly, previewing and looking at this game, what you feel are going to be some takeaways here?
I think this game right here is going to be a battle, of course, of the defenses. Of course, they want to keep both coaches like to play that old style of football. They want to keep the score close. They want to run the football, and they want to get to the quarterback. And I think it'll come down to a point in the game where both quarterbacks are going to have to make a play. So eventually, I think they're going to take away the run game for both teams, and somebody got to step up. Either Justin Fields. I know he's been playing pretty solidly, but he haven't done a lot yet. So you have to make a play. Justin Herbert got the bad ankle, but he's going to have to go out there and make a play eventually, too. One of those quarterbacks got to do something to try to win the game for the team.
Yeah, and the thing about it is, too, and what I kind of see is a little bit skeptical is because when I look at previewing the Pittsburgh Steelers is that the Steelers haven't been able to really score a ton on offense. And that's kind of the thing that I'm trying to figure out how, like, in this kind of setting, because Justin Fields, yes, he's been riding the train right now. They've been winning two games. They're undefeated right now, but they are – I called this a BB gun type offense because it seems like they haven't been really able to pass the ball past the 20-yard plus threshold, but they have been working with a lot of those pieces to get the first downs, to fight in any and every way that they can. And it felt like they've been leaning so much up on defense. How have you arguably seen this offense kind of roll with Justin Fields? Because I just feel like it's a ton of dink and dunk. It's a ton of short passes. And I'm not sure if this is kind of part of Arthur Smith's scheme.
Yeah, I feel like I agree with most of that, too, because we're kind of just playing and doing enough just to try to win the game, just managing. I'm turning the ball over. Don't force anything. Now, he has some big plays that I called back, of course, offensive line penalties as well. You got to cut those down, the pre-snap penalties, the holding, all the extra stuff. But I think they got to find a way to, like, go out there and, like, actually put some points on the board. Because we only allowed one touchdown, but we only scored one touchdown as well. So we got to find a way to put some points on the board. And this is a perfect matchup for it because this team right here, you can't go out there and score 13 points. You're not going to beat the Chargers scoring 13 points. You got to score 23-plus points to try to beat a team like the Chargers, like a playoff-level team. So it's a big-time challenge for us to go against somebody like this and test our skills to see if our offense actually can step up and make a play.
Yeah, so because, I mean, looking at it, they've been scoring at least an average of 15.5 points already in 2 weeks, and they've averaged defenses to at least 8 points. So we know that TJ Watt and company, they've been stepping things up. And by the way, shout out to a really good friend of mine who is on the Pittsburgh Steelers roster. My good friend, I went to high school with the kid, was formerly a running back and a strong safety, and happy as hell that he got the bag this year. Miles Killebrew, man, I'm happy for the kid.
It's nice.
Yeah, he's been real good with that special team. So good for him. I think it'll be interesting, though, seeing that defense really clash up. Now, the question mark is, because looking at the offensive line for the Chargers already, the two tackles, Rashawn Slater and Joe Alt, have been the best tackle duo thus far for the league. And even though Joe Alt went up against Max Crosby in 26 snaps, he had 0 pressures allowed and was 8-0 in a lot of those one-on-one matchups. This time he's going against an even stronger opponent in TJ Watt. How are you kind of previewing this one-on-one fight? Because it just feels like it's a battle of two heavyweights in the boxing ring, and I'm waiting to see how Joe Alt really favors out against TJ Watt.
Yeah, Joe Alt is very good. I think I did like a lot of draft videos. I was doing it like in the off season, talking about Joe Alt as well. So I know he's very, 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 very talented. So he's going to get TJ Watt, who's one of the best, if not the best, for a 4-time All-Pro pass rusher. So we're going to see what's going to happen. Of course, he's going to win some matchups, but I just hope that in the end, TJ Watt can win a little bit more to try to make a play or something. But it's going to be very tough.
Yeah, and, I honestly think, because I look at it of like, well, if TJ Watt gets shut down, right, think of some of the other potential possibilities that could step up. There's Cam Hayward. There's also, Peyton Wilson. There's multiple other, even Alex Highsmith. So if that became the case, could there potentially be some of these guys on that pass rush that may end up having to step in if that became the case?
Yeah, I believe so, because Alex Highsmith, he been getting slept on sometimes, because last year his year was a little down because he had 7.5 sacks. So the year before that, he had 14 when TJ Watt was injured most of the year, so he had most of the time to go out there and do stuff. And last year, he had 7.5 sacks, so people have been looking down on him. But he had a lot of pressures. He had some pick sixes last year, forced fumbles. He was doing a very good job at that. So if TJ Watt gets hemmed up on the one side, you got him. You also got Patrick Queen, who's been blitzing in here and there. You got all type of guys. Cam Hayward. We got all pros at all levels. So to go out there and do different things to cause mayhem against the opposing teams.
So recapping last week, now I do personally live here in Denver, and I'm telling you, I heard it all. I've heard all of I'm watching that game, and I couldn't help but think, God, it's like the Broncos really are trying to get the Steelers to change that yellow color, because it was thrown everywhere, all in that game. It was flags galore. I mean, when I look at the penalties, the Steelers came away with 10 penalties for 78 yards, and then the Broncos had just 9 penalties for 124 yards. What really went wrong there? Was it just because it was just such a hard clash between those two?
I think both defenses did a good job, but it also was a lot of wacky play for the offenses, because watching the game, of course, I'm glad I didn't live stream it. That's the one game I skipped. It was boring, a boring game. A lot of wackiness, a lot of, they had fumbles and interceptions by Bo Nix and all type of things that's happening like that. The game was just not fun to watch, especially in the second half, all those punts. But it was like the battle of the defense. They was doing a lot of things to disrupt the offenses. It was kind of makes me concerned playing against the Chargers this Sunday, who has a better defense than the Broncos. So if you guys doing that against the Broncos defense, you have to find a different way to do something when you play a team like this.
I feel like the important matter for both of these teams is who's going to win the time of possession. Yeah. I think that's the most important part. How do you feel about that? Because I felt like what Jim Harbaugh does a lot is he makes sure that he runs the football, plays physical football, and wants to wear out opposing defenses, because he wants to take advantage and he wants to get the lead of the time of possession. How do you kind of explain that? Because I think the same way that I look at a tough culture in Pittsburgh, in the Berg, the same way they want to control the time of possession with Mike Tomlin. I mean, I think that's going to be one of the most important things in this game that could be decisive of the winner.
Yeah, Coach Harbaugh does a good job of controlling the game in general. He did it with the 49ers, did it in Michigan as well. Like every team you see, he don't have a good rushing attack. Like no matter what team he's on, make sure the O-line is good. That's why him going to the Chargers was perfect. To fix their O-line, fix their rushing attack, and now J.K. Dobbins is there. He's always been a good running back. It's just the injuries that kind of caught up to him. With the Ravens, he had some good games against us many times. So he's been a good running back, being able to run the ball. The only thing we got to do probably is try to limit the rushing attack. You can't stop it, of course. Some stuff you just can't stop. You can't stop LeBron James from scoring 25 points every night, but you just got to try to find a way to slow it down, limit it a little bit. And when you have opportunity to make a play, you got to make it.
So that's my thing is that rush defense of Pittsburgh, because it gave the Broncos fits, and then it also ended up giving the Falcons a bit of fits, and including facing against Bijan Robinson. You couldn't get anything going up from there. That's where you now have to try to improvise. You got to pass that ball. Yep. And I felt like they've done a fantastic job limiting a Falcons offense that's brand new with Kirk Cousins, and then limiting, of course, a rookie quarterback in Bo Nix that just it looked like he was very overwhelmed. It looked like they just couldn't get anything right. Now, J.K. Dobbins, he's coming up against a tough rushing defense from here because coming in 266 yards on the ground, 2 rushing touchdowns. This is the J.K. Dobbins that we've reminisced his days in Ohio State. But going up against that matchup, now it may not only be him, but then there's Gus Edwards in the middle of that mix. How do you feel that the Steelers will plan that attack, knowing how Harbaugh loves physical football? Greg Roman's going to run majority of that ball. I mean, just from a toe-to-toe standpoint, how that rush defense is going to try to contain what the Chargers have done successfully in 2 weeks.
They probably try to do it in the sense of just making emphasis on trying to stop the run, and then probably put the ball in Herbert's hands, which is not, of course, easy. Of course, Justin Herbert is top 10 quarterback in the league, but he is on a bad ankle. So you're probably hoping that he make a mistake or he's not the same as he once was because the ankle is hurt, and try to get T.J. Watt or Alex Highsmith on those guys in. Because I think we're best when we rush in the passer. Of course, stopping the run is good, but you want T.J. Watt to be out there. You want Alex Highsmith and Cam Hayward, all those guys hunting, because that's when we are at our best, rushing the passer. So we probably try to do a thing where you try to put the ball in the quarterback hands and then see what happens.
I feel because going into the matchup, I know it's going to be a bloodbath trench warfare game at the end of it, because both these defenses have been immaculate. But it just left me to think, and I'll talk a little bit more about it here with all the Charger fans, but the fact that Justin Herbert being questionable, here's the hardest part, and I don't know how Harbaugh is going to take this, but you're going in a matchup against an opponent that is within the conference, but is not in your division. Because next week, the Chargers have the Kansas City Chiefs, a division rival opponent. And so I'm taking this and I'm like, do the Chargers still go with Herbert, knowing that he's going to be okay, supposedly, or because I even thought about this, with Green Bay's situation with Jordan Love, because you don't want to rush a quarterback out there because it's a game of inches and it's not a race, it's a marathon. And you want to be able to be healthy by the time you get into the postseason. So could that play a little bit of a benefactor there? Because, I mean, we'll talk more about your division, but do you kind of see a little bit of something like that maybe happening if the Chargers were not to go with Herbert, if that became the case come Sunday?
I think most likely, I think Herbert going to play, but I feel like they could potentially do, because the style is trying to run the football. The quarterback not have to do too much, so just go out there. Maybe occasionally you throw on play action passes. They're able to move the ball real well. Of course they want to go out there and put the best guy who's healthy enough to start out there. But I think it being an AFC matchup is also hurts a little bit, because if you do lose, the conference, the tiebreakers at the end of the year, every time you watch it, you be like, dang, I need them to lose so I can get in or something. So you want to make sure you handle all your conference opponents and your division, of course, too, but your conference opponents as well. So when things come at the end of the year, you have an opportunity to get in. You had a tiebreaker over a certain team and have the better chance of getting to the postseason.
And so I think about this with the Pittsburgh Steelers. I mean, a 2-0 impressive start. They're leading up in the AFC North with knowing that the Baltimore Ravens with an 0-2 start. I mean, that's not something you would think Lamar Jackson and all them would want. Now, the Bengals may be 0-2, but they may not be 0-2 for very long. I felt like they really gave the bang for Kansas City's buck. And I also do think that the Cleveland Browns, I mean, they're shaken with some injuries. Seems like is some inconsistencies in Deshaun Watson's game. I mean, is this kind of a very good confidence build for Pittsburgh as a whole, knowing that they're 2-0 right now for the moment, and then looking at all their opponents in their own division and what they have to prepare for the entirety of the season?
I feel like it is because, like, you're looking at like the Ravens starting off 0-2, who was the AFC number one seed last year, and the Browns, of course, what they did in the playoffs last year as well. They made the playoffs. They got blown out by the Texans, but they made it. They're like 11-6. And the Bengals, they missed the playoffs, but it was 9-8. So our division was very tough last year. All teams had a winning record, but this year you kind of see a little shakiness. I never really trusted Deshaun Watson fully because ever since he got to the Browns, he had been a completely different player. Like, I don't know what happened to him. He lost all his skills. It's like Space Jams. He lost all his skills at all. Like, he can't go out there and be consistent with throwing, getting out the field. He's not as athletic anymore. His rushing ability is not the same. So I don't know what happened to him. I know Nick Chubb is still missing. He'll probably be back eventually. But I'm kind of liking it right now. If the Steelers can find a way to win, if they do win on Sunday, it kind of built a lot more momentum. Because, like, usually the past few years, we kind of start off bad. I remember last year we started off, it was like 1-2-3, something like that. And then the year before that, we started off like 1-4 and stuff. So, like, had like bad starts. And this time we actually started off good. So, like, if the bad stretch do happen, then you at least feel confident that you won those games at the beginning to kind of get yourself back on track if something do happen. Because it happens every year. Eventually, we're going to have a point in time where we start losing random games that we should win. It always happens. I don't know why.
Yeah, man. And like I said, there's always going to be some of those games that, like, you're hoping. I've always called those ones the WTF games because you're hoping it doesn't come out that kind of outcome because, it's like you hope it would be a winnable game, but then all of a sudden it turned into this other narrative. It turns into like what happened with the Cowboys against the New Orleans Saints. Like, you know what I mean? So it's like you have to be able to win those matchups through and through. All righty, guys. Well, we've got 16 views right now, 5 likes. Guys, we have 5 likes right now. We need to share it out, like it up, smash up the likes. Don't take too much, guys. Appreciate all of you guys for joining on. So we're going to go with this. I want you to give me at least your 3 best takeaways in this game and then come up with a final score of what you believe and what you think may be the outcome here with the Chargers versus Steelers.
Okay, my first takeaway would probably be, I have confidence in our defense. The defense has been carrying us for the past 3-4 years, really. The offense has been lackluster with Kenny Pickett and Mr. Trubisky. I hate to say his name, but Mr. Trubisky and all different type of things we had. We had Big Ben. He was falling off as well, too. So our defense has been doing a good job and staying consistent over time. And this year, I feel like we found every, gap. We added more depth in the linebacker core, the cornerbacks as well, the safety. So now we feel a little more confident. So that's one factor I have. I know I can always rely on the defense to make a big-time play, get a big turnover, get a big stop to get us to the victory point. And then also the second point would probably be TJ Watt. When you have a guy like that on a team, good things usually happen. He on the field. When he's off the field, we're 1-10, 1-10-1. When TJ Watt plays, we have a winning record. We go out there and play very good when he plays. I hope that changes, though. Of course, we can't rely on him every time like that. But TJ Watt is one of those players who just game changing. One of those guys who just, when he's on the field, he just make a lot of plays for you. Just naturally find things. Just like the Falcon game, like when it was kind of like in a point where they had to lead on us a little bit. A fumble just happened out of nowhere, and Watt just dives 5 yards and get it and stuff. So he just find a way to make different plays. And the last thing I'll probably say is just the toughness of the team. The one thing about the Steelers, I know a few times last year we got jacked up. We got blown out a few times. We lost to the Patriots and the Cardinals. I think it was the Patriots, Cardinals, and somebody else. We lost 3 straight. The Colts, we got blown out by the Colts as well. But one thing they never did was give up. When we had injured rosters and all that type of stuff that happened, never give it up. So I think in the game where it become a slugfest or anything happen, they go out there and show their toughness, perseverance, and they always find a way to at least keep the game close like that. You give yourself a chance to win in the fourth quarter.
Yeah. And I think it'll be interesting. So you gave us your final score, how you feel like this game might end up going?
Yeah, I said the winner I didn't pick on my channel. I didn't pick a winner. I said the winner of this game going to win 23-20.
Oh wow. Yeah, that could be interesting. I personally, the way that I looked at this, my takeaways is that with Joe Alt literally putting a clinic against Max Crosby in week 1, could he put together that same clinic against TJ Watt in this one? Because I do feel like walking in with two of arguably the best tackles currently right now in the league, with him and Rashawn Slater on both those sides, is going to make it such a pain in the neck for opposing fronts to really get after the quarterback and really try to stop this run and even spread the gap. You're not only just dealing with linemen, but you're even dealing with secondary linemen with your tight ends, with like Will Dissly and company, for them to really support and open up those holes. So I think that's one of the other takeaways. My other takeaway is this defense has shown that it's no longer it's no longer giving up points. It's finally starting to work in Jesse Minter's favor, where he loves that 4-3 defense set, and he's all about get after the guy with the ball. And he's like, stop them in their tracks. And then at the same time, he's getting corners that may not be, big namers like Asante Samuel Jr. or a couple of others, but he's getting these corners to where they're stepping up and they are playing solid man-to-man coverages, which is why I think of, George Pickens in these types of matchups, because it could be a point he may be pissed. They may be pissing off George Pickens at the end of this. So they play a lot of that shutdown. Can that carry over into week 3 against a legit matchup? Because this is one that's a good test for the Chargers to seeing how prepared that they will be against the Kansas City Chiefs next week. And then my final takeaway is the possession game. Who's going to end up winning a lot of those possessions more? The other thing that I think for that is that the Chargers have to open that pass game a little bit more. Herbert has been throwing for less than 30 passes now in 2 straight weeks, and he's only thrown for almost close to 150 passing yards. So he has not thrown that much, but he's throwing accurately. He's throwing pretty smart on it. He only made one bonehead interception against Carolina last week that I was just like, what in the world is he throwing it to and why? So it was the only mistake. But I feel like if we open the pass game a bit to where we mix things up, knowing we don't want to be very obvious when it comes to our run game, giving them the idea to stuff the run. So those are my takeaways from there. Tackles have to play solid, especially against that front 7 that's solid. Corners, I feel like, have to play a lot of shutdown this week, considering the fact that, for Najee Harris and this kind of run game, it may not be as big of a competition, but it is still something you have to be really mentally prepared for. And then open that pass game a bit, because you don't want to be obvious on running. You want to be able to mix some things up a bit, get Ladd McConkey, get a couple other receivers involved. So I think that might be interesting. But my takeaway of it as my score, I feel like this could be a lot low scoring than I think. I think this could be one of those games. It might look ugly for a second, but eventually somebody's going to turn up in the second half. I kind of have this going 17-14. Chargers end up taking this one, because I just feel like it's going to get that close to a point where Justin Fields needs to improvise in some of those areas. Yeah. And if he can't, especially with an offensive line that looks a little bit shaky to me, that's where I kind of feel like it's going to get harder to really distribute the ball to those playmakers. Thoughts on that?
Yeah, and that's what I said last time. Like it'll come down to mostly which quarterback will make the best play, like for their team to win the game. Like Fields is cool and all, but Justin Herbert's on a different level, in play style like that. But he has the bad ankle, of course. But I just hope Fields, when the opportunity does arise for him to go out there and make a play, he do something, with his legs, with his arm, to go out there and try to make something happen. But you did bring up a good point, though, too, as well, because George Pickens really is the only receiver you got to worry about, because our other receivers we have, like Van Jefferson, he had like 3 yards in 2 games. And then you look at, of course, Calvin Austin, and then whoever else we got on the team, like Roman Wilson is injured as well. And then we got the Slokovic, he was injured as well. There's just a lot of random guys out there like that. So Pickens is the only person you really got to worry about too. So if they take him away, it's kind of hard for Justin Fields. Got to improvise. You know, he still got Pat Fryer moves, Darnell Washington and stuff. But you know, you want to have like more on the receiving like room. That's why I wanted us to go out there, either bring a guy back, bring Deontay Johnson back. The Panthers not using him, bring him back or do something like that because our receiver room is very weak. And we play against Sunday Samuel. They really could just say, hey, we put our second guy and double team that on Pickens and then put Sunday Samuel on the second guy. And then you get clamped up, really.
Yeah. Oh, it's going to be interesting, man. Like I said, I just think it's going to come down to the injury, but I have full confidence that I think Justin Herbert will be able to start. And I think the offensive line is going to try to ensure he has a clean, protective pocket. But again, something could potentially happen in the middle of this game, but I think it's going to be exciting nonetheless because this team did not travel back to Los Angeles after Carolina. They stayed in the East Coast because they want to feel like that kind of East Coast gridiron, especially going into Pittsburgh, they want to be mentally prepared for. And this is this is arguably the most traveled team in the NFL when we looked at the schedule. So they're traveling a lot. So they're riding the narrative of being quote unquote road warriors. So it'll be interesting to see how this pans out, but I think it will get at least an exciting game nonetheless. But appreciate you, man, for bringing me all your insights and all the rest of it. Guys, 19 views, 7 likes. We're on the road to 1K up onto the channel. We are on the hard grind. And, of course, for all of us at Syndicate Sports, we're all trying to get up there. We're all trying to feast up with 1K and getting us monetized. So we got some goals we got to hit. Check out DB here at Steelers Syndicate for all of your Steelers news. Everything you need to get geared up for your Pittsburgh Steelers, especially against this game against the LA Chargers. I'm sure you've already got, some week previews already out there, some videos there. So, yeah, it's going to be an interesting one, man. But we'll see what happens come Gridiron Sunday, man. Any given Sunday, so it may go either way from here. But appreciate you taking up the time, man.
No problem.
And let's see where it goes, man. Go Bolts. All right. Well, there you go, guys. Good stuff from DB. I think it's going to be interesting, though, come this whole game because we're back in the trenches again, guys. Like, this is one of those matchups that could go either way, but it's one of those ones that we have to be mentally prepared for at the end of it. So we know that going into this week, with just this game preview, both these teams are 2-0, very surprisingly from like everybody. The last time these two teams faced off, it was November 21st, 2021 in LA. And the Chargers and the Steelers, it was a shootout. But it turned out the Chargers came away with the win 41-37. I remember watching that game and I was just pissed off. Like, because it was back and forth games. We stayed in the hunt of that game, but just the fact that we gave up 37 points was just unacceptable. That was the part that I knew that I was like, this ain't good. So let's give up some shout outs here up and into the chat. Bolt Casa, Bolt Ups, Mir, Bolt Up, my friend. Antony, another new Chargers channel. Yes, indeed. Brand new channel here. Welcome on in. We're hitting our goals this season, trying to get up to 1,000 subscribers, getting monetized and meeting our goals and getting on the grind. Tom, what's up, buddy? Appreciate you coming up on by. We've already got 7 likes right now. We need to start smashing it up. Get those thumbs going. Smash it up. Also, share it out to every Chargers fan out there known to man, both coast to coast, because we got to get prepared for this big-time gridiron matchup against the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, the thing about these two is that the Chargers offense will start with, they're 12th overall in their offense, 2nd in rush, 28th in passing, and 11th in scoring. Now, the Chargers defense, so we'll start with the offense. So as I've said before, the run game has been very effective for the Chargers. It's been very effective. And it has been one of those that one thing is that our pass game has to open up. I was talking about that all from last week against the Carolina Panthers, because if we're not opening up the pass game, then how are we going to be expected to make some big plays? Because you got to be able to get something cooking. I like the fact that we're getting the short passes involved, getting the first downs, keeping the time of possession up on our side. And it's one of those ones that we have to be prepared for. And so I think with going into this matchup, we're going back into the trenches again. We're going way back into it. I believe the over-under is 37.5 for this game. Let me look at this. I think you're right. So on this, they have the Steelers favored by 3. And so it's a 3-point game. And the over-under is actually 34.5 up on ESPN. So it's actually 34.5 in this game. I may take the over, just because I know it'll be a low scoring game. And I think they did kind of predict that right, because that is something that I know is a difference maker. So for the Chargers, knowing that they're going up in this matchup against the Steelers, they have to really be hard-nosed, and especially on the road in a condition like Pittsburgh. It may not be as drastic right now because we are in the month of September, and not having to deal with that crazy cold that's up out there, but it is one of those takeaways. So, and the Steelers, by the way, they're 30th overall in offense, 12th in rush, 30 in passing, and 26th in scoring. They have a lesser scoring offense than the Chargers do. The Chargers are 11th scoring offense, but the only takeaway is that both these teams have been bottom-ranked passing offenses. And the only difference is that the Chargers, 12th overall offense, with 2nd in rushing. Whereas for the Steelers, it's ranked 30th. It's not a good offense. And I've said it before that it's a BB gun type offense against, for the Steelers. And I think the Chargers, they're not that intimidated with them offensively. But they certainly want to get something going on their side with just everything that's been happening. So it certainly is one that I think could be a very good outcome for the way that the Chargers defense has been playing. And the biggest takeaway is that they've been putting up a lot of pressures on guys like Gardner Minshew, and they've been putting up pressures against Bryce Young to the point where now Bryce Young is benched. And the Raiders now have to basically play with the leftovers, because now they got to deal with Andy Dalton. The fact that we put that much of an ass whooping on the Panthers last week, 26-3, I mean, the Panthers really got nothing going for him. And I feel bad. But this step with the Pittsburgh Steelers is one that's going to prepare us for the Kansas City Chiefs. Because we have a statement to make with the damn Chiefs. We really do. We've already did our part this far with the Raiders in week 1. And we'd have to face them in the last game of the season. But we've got plenty of time until then. But this is where the Steelers are going to toughen up this team and really get us prepared for what it's going to look like against the Kansas City Chiefs. So we got 24 views, 9 likes, guys. We got 4 current viewers right now. Let's get it up. Let's double down up on it, guys. Like it up, share it out. By the way, we're meeting up a lot of our goals, guys. We're already got our X page up right now. So if you guys are on X, definitely give me a follow at LAC Syndicate, Charter Syndicate. We got 32 followers here. And so let's keep it going, guys. Going to be posting up a lot of recaps as well. And also we've got our Instagram page to check out. That's Charger Syndicate on IG. So follow up. Give me a follow and stay up to date with your boy. And not to mention, too, I was on with the debut Tuesday on the AFC Roundtable with Roundtable Sports. What an amazing night it was. Definitely represented the Chargers proudly. Appreciated all the guys for the opportunity. So I'm excited for this entire year. So we've had a lot of smack talking, but we've been breaking all the games down, been having a lot of fun. Got a lot of new Charger fans, and we know that there's Chargers fans everywhere. Everybody keeps saying, well, where's the Chargers fans? Where are they all at? No, we're here. We're alive. We're present. We're just not out there heckling, acting like fools about there because we know what to expect. We know what the goal is. So that's where we remain focused. To continue on, the Chargers defense, they're second overall right now. And they're sixth in the rush game, sixth in the pass defense, and number one scoring offense. And for the Steelers, they are the fifth overall defense, fourth in the rush, 14th in the pass, and second in scoring. So you have the number one and the number two best scoring defenses going at it at each other. And the Chargers are the second overall ranked defense, whereas the Steelers are the fifth. So they're part of the top five best defenses thus far. Fourth in rushing, better on the rush defense than the Chargers. But their one big weakness that we know that the Chargers have to take advantage of is that pass defense that's 14th. So it may not be much, but the Chargers know that they can distribute the football with a type of pass defense that hasn't been able to lock down the pass. So that's a big time takeaway. And then the turnover differential, Chargers are at +2 and the Steelers are at +5. So these are both teams that do not like to turn the ball over. And that's a big thing. That's a big deal. So I think with that, it'll be interesting. But nonetheless, it will in fact be a trench warfare bloodbath by the end of Sunday. Because when I come up potentially either on a Monday or a Tuesday with our victor, if depending on it, win or loss, I just know that this game is just going to be, this game's going to definitely have the potential to wear us out. So we'll see. We'll think about it. And I just hope that we continue to keep our foot on the gas, which I have all the best confidence in the world of with the Chargers and with Jim Harbaugh. I think we're definitely in a setting and in a position to where we'll be okay in a lot of areas. So we're going to share this out here. Our injury report all throughout the week. So injuries thus far right now for the Chargers, it looks interesting. But as of right now, with a lot of our key players, this is what it looks like right now. So going on to the Chargers side. So right now with our injury report, we'll start with Joey Bosa. He had the hip injury. He was limited both Wednesday, Thursday, full practice up on Friday. He looks like he's going to be a full go. Junior Colson, however, is going to be a tough one because he's out. Has a hamstring injury, did not practice all week, so he's a definite out. Bud Dupree had an illness, did not practice from Wednesday to Thursday, but was there Friday, and his status is questionable as well. Hopefully he'll feel good come tomorrow, and then come by the time the morning game on Sunday starts. Alohi Gilman had a knee injury. He was limited Wednesday, Thursday, got a full practice today, and he's questionable. Hopefully Gilman is ready to go because that may be a big deal with the secondaries. Justin Herbert with that high ankle sprain didn't practice Wednesday, was limited yesterday, and then did not practice Friday. Now, the takeaway on that with the Justin Herbert injury is that apparently that the pain was not great. So they heavily taped it, and it showed that there was a bit of a limp, but they're taking extra precautionaries from what we were told from Jim Harbaugh in the press conference when it talked about when he walked out. Hayden Hurst, ankle injury, limited both Wednesday, Thursday, and was a full practice today, so he's ready to go. Khalil Mack, non-injury related, limited and full practices both Thursday, Friday. He's ready to go, and you already know he doesn't miss out on games. Josh Palmer, elbow and calf, did not practice at all week, so he's going to be questionable. I feel like he may be out. And then finally, Jasir Taylor with that fibula injury did not practice Wednesday, limited both Thursday, Friday. He's also questionable as well. So to answer the question, Dicker the Kicker, bolt up, man. Appreciate you coming up. Is Chark playing? It seems to me that Chark is not on the injured list, so I have a feeling that DJ Chark is going to be a full go. So Chark is going to be ready to roll. I think Josh Palmer, he could be somebody that could be out this week against the Steelers. And Jasir Taylor, who had that kind of lingering injury a bit last week with the Carolina Panthers, yet still was able to play. This could be interesting, though, too, for Sunday if he's ready to roll. Because not to mention, we have Cam Hart and we've got Tarheeb still. So we still have some corners that could potentially come up at some point. So those are some of the things to keep an eye out for. But I think what's clear is Josh Palmer may not end up playing. I'm hoping because with a full practice from Alohi Gilman, he'll be ready to go. Junior Colson is out. That's going to kind of hurt our linebacking core, especially when we need to have a facilitator up and in the middle. But I think Jesse Minter has a game plan. Now, I was asked this, though, too, from a Charger fan and asked about where's Tremont Morris Brash, the linebacker. And I've said that he's there up on the practice squad. And I like Morris Brash. I felt like the guy played very well as a facilitator. He came away with that interception in the preseason against the Dallas Cowboys. And the thing about that game is that at the end of the day, I felt like that particular moment, Morris Brash very much gelled up with this linebacking core with Denzel Perryman and company. But that might be something to kind of keep an eye out here. So I think they'll figure out the linebackers. Hopefully, though, if that became the case, I hope that Morris Brash does get an opportunity to play. I think the kid plays hard. And so if they elevate him, depending on the injury reports, who ends up coming in and who goes out, I think Morris Brash could make a case to end up coming in and filling in that role. So those are the Chargers injury reports. Looking at the Steelers, though, kind of giving an idea, Troy Fautanu had a knee injury that he suffered last week. Wednesday, Thursday did not show up, was limited Friday. He's questionable. Now, if they lose Troy Fautanu, that offensive line, that may not look as well. So that could be quite an interesting thing there for the Steelers. Najee Harris, non-injury related. He did not practice Wednesday, but was a full go Thursday, Friday. He's ready to roll. Cam Hayward, same thing. Didn't practice for 2 days. Practice today on a full. He's ready to go. Larry Ogunjobi, he was non-related, limited, full practices on both days. He's ready to roll. But Michael Pruitt and then Isaac Sumalo, they're both out with a knee and a pectoral injury. So the guard and the tight end, they're missing here in this game. Now, they do have that one kid, I believe, Washington, next to Pat Freiermuth. So it's not going to be too big of a loss, but it certainly is going to be one as far as secondary protection that they will need. Now, TJ Watt, non-injury related, had rest, limited, and then was full practice Thursday, Friday. He's good to go. Now, this is interesting. Roman Wilson, their rookie wide receiver, had an ankle injury back then and was sidelined. He was limited Wednesday and had a full practice Thursday, Friday. Roman Wilson may play. That's going to be really interesting. because the fact of what you're seeing with that wide receiver core with George Pickens, Calvin Austin, Van Jefferson, and then you bring in a guy like Roman Wilson, that may be something that the defense may have to keep a serious sharp eye out on. And then finally, Russell Wilson with the calf injury, limited all 3 days and is questionable, but Justin Fields is going to get the start. So that's our injury report there for the Chargers. But that's what it's looking like right now. Herbert, Palmer, Dupree, Gilman, and Taylor are all questionable right now. So that could be pretty interesting. So, and my hope is that the Chargers will pick up where they left off, and we'll see. I think at the end of it, it's going to be a tough enough game. Now, the one game that everybody's been romanticizing was the 1994 AFC Championship game between the Chargers and the Steelers, and that was what determined going to the Super Bowl that year in 94. I mean, you saw a lot of big-time throws and a lot of big-time plays by Stan the Man Humphries and Natrone Means. What a classic that was. And even with the late, great Junior Seau and Roddy Harrison. I mean, this Chargers team making it all the way to the end was a classic. So, not sure if it's going to be, I'm not entirely sure if it's going to be like one of those games that we could go either way. Could be pretty lopsided, but we'll see. So a couple of interviews that we've had thus far. So Jim Harbaugh was asked about with Jesse Minter and just how he has managed this defense to become a number one scoring defense. Here's what he said.
I think he's just good. He's just really good at what he does. Not his first time coaching in the NFL, not his first time being a play caller. He's good. He's sharp, cool, calm, calculated, and also great staff on the defensive side with the coaches. But Jesse especially makes it go.
So a lot of high praises for Jesse Minter indeed, and just the way that he's put together this defense. This defense, that's what a lot of people don't realize that has changed up a lot, is that this defense has not been giving up on many plays. They've been fighting hard every step of the way, and they've been coming up with some big-time man-to-man coverage plays. Run stuffing, they've been physical, and that's where a lot of those takeaways in the last 2 weeks is where Jesse Minter really likes to have it. So week 5 might not be that bad. No, I think having the bye week up in week 5 may not turn out to be as bad, but we know that, going into it in these first 4 games, we were going to be tested on it. And then it's going to be a longer stretch of football towards the end of the season. So that's where it's not looking as terrible as some people think it may be. I think it'll be just fine for us. Joey Bosa ended up commenting on the recent play of the defense.
Every piece works together, and we felt as an edge group, we did our job out there, but it's almost like we didn't even have to do anything out there. Everybody was playing so well. The linebackers, DBs, just tackling, making plays on the ball, setting knocking the front back in the run, like you're saying. So it's great when you could just rely on everybody out there to make a play. It didn't matter who it was. When I was watching on the sideline, it was like everybody was taking turns making plays, and it's great to see.
I feel a lot like Joey Bosa is happy. Like, Joey looks happy with this defense. I can see it all on the press, and I can see it even when he's out there up onto the field. And I think what it is that they have been highly critical with Joey Bosa, and in the right degree, because Joey in a lot of those areas was always questioned. Like he missed a ton of games, which is why that this year was important. It was this year that he needed to step things up. It was this year that he needed to turn around the things that we know a lot of people would criticize. And so that's why I think it's so important. And it's a big time takeaway. So Joey Bosa, the fact that he is playing this kind of level, and he's also playing at the current state right now, is one that he's going to have a fantastic year. He's going to have quite a bounce back year. There's going to be a lot of players on this roster that is playing for something. Bosa is playing to have a bounce back year. He's playing to, at the very least, make that contract worth it. And even with that contract restructure. Marcus, bolt up, man. Marcus Reichart, welcome on in. Do you think if Herbert can't make it to the game, can we win with Stick or Taylor? Honestly, I think we would honestly win with Taylor Heineke. Because at least I know I have a veteran quarterback, a guy that can at least distribute the football, because Easton Stick, all I know is that he's used to be running the football majority of the time. Now, in the preseason, he's had spurts where he's had to throw the ball and he had to show up for himself, because there was a lot of that to where they were determining the quarterback play. They were determining the quarterback depth chart, because Easton Stick, man, like I've said it before, I don't even know why we still were giving him chances, but there was times where I was cringing the entirety of it. Doesn't mean that like I lose full faith, but there's things like that I get a bit concerned about. But with Taylor Heineke, he's gone toe-to-toe with these guys. He has done that. And as a capable backup, knowing how to spread the ball, knowing how to distribute it to its weapons, that's why I think Taylor Heineke would be the better option. Because at least the guy can run the football out. He could create space, and he can make accurate throws to keep it rolling, because we know that this Chargers offense has been so heavily reliant on the run game, and it's been successful. Even Joey is surprised he made it out of the Panthers game healthy. Oh yeah. But that's the thing though. This is why it's a new culture here. So continuing on with a few sound bites, here was Greg Roman when he talked about Scott Matlock here.
Yeah, Scott has got a lot on his plate, and it's amazing how he's handling it. I can't speak enough about how diligently he's preparing, and he's getting better every week. But man, how impressive is that? I mean, he's in offensive meetings early this morning, to defensive meetings, to special teams meetings, back to the defensive meeting, back to the offensive walkthrough. So it's a great testament to him.
Yes, Scott Matlock, what was talked about, because he's literally doing everything. He's becoming a Swiss Army knife. He's become a Swiss Army knife for this LA Chargers roster. Apparently, Heineke has learned the playbook quickly. Yeah, he has. But that's what I'm saying. He's been around in the league long enough, and from what it seems like he can learn a playbook very quickly, and he can work with a type of offense that Greg Roman runs. So even if that became the case, and I'll get a little bit more into it after we get through the last soundbite up from here, the last two. But Jesse Minter, the defensive coordinator, he was also talking about Diane Henley, because Diane Henley, God, this dude's been a beast. He's been a guy that's been getting involved, getting the tackles, getting the stops. And Jesse Minter has had some words about that.
He's, just continuing every week to chase details and chase Chase really good play through his preparation. I think Navarro, my dad, Mike Heastan, those guys with our linebackers have done a tremendous job with him. And so, he's really athletic. I've talked about this before. His skill set just translates to this era of football in the National Football League. And he's playing with confidence. He's communicating really well. He's been in and out of the green dot at times, done a great job with that. And just look forward to continue to see him get a little bit better every game, get a little bit better every day. He practices. His practice habits and preparation are really taking off and really allowing him, I think, to continue to get better every week. So very happy with how he's played so far.
Diane Henley, dude, is like the guy just can't be stopped. Diane Henley gets involved these last 2 weeks and was involved in the tackling, was involved in stopping up the run. Like, the guy is literally a force of nature. Guy just knows exactly how to play up that position so well. And something that I've been so excited about, that Diane Henley is finally getting the involvement that he needs. Because I felt like the previous defense, the way that those things were called, was just so atrocious. I couldn't stand it. So that's why I'm like, I just think with the way that the defense has changed, with the way that just the feeling in general with this team altogether, I think it's been crazy about it. So to finally wrap up, so our good friends at Chargers Weekly podcast, they were talking about J.K. Dobbins and Gus Edwards and what a start that they've had in the first 2 weeks.
J.K. Dobbins, 27 carries, he averaged like 9.5 yards a pop or something ridiculous. He had a 46-yard run in week 1. He had a 12-yard touchdown in week 1. He had a 61-yard run in week 1. Then he has a 43-yard touchdown in week 2. I asked J.K. after the game, I'm like, are you even exceeding your own expectations through 2 weeks? He's like, no, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. Gus Edwards had a lot of carries in that game too.
It's a big part of it. Do not underestimate, just because you look at the stats, what Gus Edwards is doing. And it's just their physical, gnarly, punishing carries from Gus. I mean, you're watching the push that he gets with the guys that are coming up to tackle him. He is wrecking them. Even if it only goes for 2 yards or 3 yards, you're watching that pushback. And that's why the game looked like it did in the fourth quarter of both of these games.
Yeah, J.K. Dobbins and Gus Edwards have just been on a level of their own. But it's that ground and pound game. It's that kind that they just basically have a physical force to where they're there to sock you in the mouth every time when they have the ball in their hands and they're running. So that's why I think it's been one of the big time takeaways from there. When Roman said Alt reminds him of Ogden, my bolt got bolted. I think we really made the best pick since Herbert. I think so too. And because that says a lot coming from an offensive coordinator who's worked around really good offensive linemen like Jonathan Ogden. And the fact that Joe Alt is doing what he's doing right now, where he had Max Crosby, he was 8-0 in those 1-1 faceoffs, how he's been able to win those matchups. And then he also got Jadeveon Clowney at his all-time worst as far as like pressure percentage. Jadeveon Clowney couldn't even get to Justin Herbert. So to go into a matchup like TJ Watt, it's not going to be a cakewalk at all. Absolutely not. But that is certainly going to be one of those matchups you and I are going to get so excited about. Because that's going to be important. That'll be in an important situation for us as Charger fans. Because in these kinds of moments and in these kinds of scenarios, that's the part that I know that Joe Alt, he's clearly ready for everything, for any and everything. And he's walking in with an 87.5 percentage. Him and Rashawn Slater have been the two best tackles right now in the league in a span of 2 weeks. shutting down Max Crosby, shutting down Jadeveon Clowney, and now we're going to get a chance to see him. Now, this is a little more heftier with TJ Watt, Cameron Hayward, Payne Wilson, multiple Alex Highsmith as well. So that's not going to be easy. So that's where we really have to be prepared for that. And that's where I think Joe Alt also has to be prepared. So going to the comments, Perryman playing outstanding too. He was laying the wood last week. Oh, yeah. He was laying it down. Got a sack, got a couple tackles. Denzel, I'm so happy Denzel Perryman, though, is also playing at his healthiest. I really am. This linebacker core has depth, man. Neiman on IR will be clutch later on. His coverage skills are outstanding. Training camp had a few INTs and passes blocked. Yeah, and that's why I said I think with turning to Tremont Morris Brash in this kind of situation, he came, like I said, he came away with a big-time interception. He came away with a big-time interception in the Cowboys game in that preseason, and he's showing that he can defend. He's showing he can defend and he can facilitate. So Tremont Morris Brash is going to be one that I would even consider there for the linebacker. And I think it's honestly a good thing. So how this linebacking core really has to play out. They really, really got to play out very solid in the mid-game. Knowing how much Justin Fields has been short passing this thing multiple times, like you got to be prepared for that. So I'd say, and especially with Pat Freiermuth, I think it's going to be it should be a very exciting and interesting game, nonetheless. But to have to literally be in this kind of situation against the Steelers is where you really got to make things work. So I'm just hoping that the Chargers, they come away with this one. Elijah Molden was also another big-time pickup. Elijah Molden really came away with some big-time INTs. He came away with a big one. So he's been a hidden gem that we stole away from Tennessee. So that's why I think that pass game, being as much of a BB gun offense that it is, that's going to create a bunch. If we can beat the Steelers this week, should we be favorited over the Chiefs week 4? You know, to be honest with you, Marcus, and the way that I think I see this bet line looking like, we should be favored. But I'll be honest, I've actually been kind of liking the underdog trade for quite a while. I've been liking it a bit. I think with what we've seen with this team playing underdog type of offense, now we know that this kind of matchup, unlike anything else, is one that's going to prepare us for Kansas City. And I know I'm trying to hold a lot of these things together. And I don't know if I should honestly, well, you know what? I'll be fair. I'll save all my explicatives for this for next week. Let's do that, right? Doesn't that seem fair to everybody on the chat? As far as saving up a lot for what I have to say about the Kansas City Chiefs, I think that should be okay. I think we'll be okay with that. So looking at it from Matchup Predictor, +3 is where the Chargers are. The spread right now, it's basically open at 36.5, but the total is 34.5. I'd say it would be, yeah, they are. I think I would take the slide over on the overall. It's going to be nice game time weather. It's supposed to be 79 degrees, sunny in Pittsburgh. And from according to the matchup predictor, people are thinking that the Chargers will beat the Steelers 53% to 46. Yeah, so that's what we're looking. Yeah. See, Marcus agrees. Yeah. I'll save a lot of my explicatives because, of course, too, I'm saving this for the AFC roundtable as well because, of course, I got to be poking away at Darcy over there. So, do you think Roman might try and feed Gus more than JK just to switch things up? I think he could because ultimately it's a running back by committee. I think he could definitely change a lot of those things up. I think he could certainly provide a lot of the, because again, it's a running back by committee kind of start. And you know what? Wouldn't any of you guys love to see Kaimani Vidal at some point? Do you think Kaimani Vidal, if we get a chance with that, with a running back by committee kind of thing, do you think that would be the open opportunity Kaimani Vidal gets involved? And I'm just kind of throwing it out there because I think Kaimani Vidal in a setting like this, knowing that they're 14th in the pass defense, and we could just narrow down a couple checkdowns and a couple screens, that shouldn't even be a bad idea. So, and here's another thing too, so I'm running this thing up on TikTok and I'm also running this up on YouTube. But I have one that basically mentioned that J.K. Dobbins should get 60% of the snaps, and he is historically good against Pittsburgh. So that's why I think J.K. Dobbins could have it. But I'm going to try to wrap things up over here. Got to get the wifey some Chipotle. By the way, they actually have a brisket one that they have a brisket I want to try in a bowl. So I'm going to definitely try that one. Okay. Red zone package with 0 receiver, 2 tight end set, 3 running back, no Herbert Wildcat with Vidal. Yeah. That's what I'm thinking. So yeah, I think if you get a little bit of that involved, like a little, I'm not saying we would get that heavily involved, but I would like to really mix a lot of those things up. But so far, Justin Herbert, 3 touchdowns, 1 pick, already 274 passing yards. Not his best. It's been kind of his lowest, but that's okay. He's been precise. J.K. Dobbins, 27 carries, 266 yards, and 2 scoring touchdowns already. And then 8 catches, 89 yards, and 2 touchdown receptions for Quentin Johnston. How about that? The fact that Quentin Johnston is looking at his form right now, and he's looking great. So I'm going to wrap this up, guys. I appreciate every single one of you guys for showing off your high voltage up and in the chat. Yeah, thank you so much, Marcus. Like I said, it's been such an honor and such a privilege to be a part of a really fun roundtable. So I'm excited about that. So here's my final thoughts upon the game. It is going to be trench warfare again. Just like we were against the Raiders, we at least got somewhat of a break against the Carolina Panthers. Somewhat. Because we know with Justin Herbert having that lingering injury, I think he'll be fine. I think he'll be okay. But I do believe that we should consider so many of those things because I would rather be prepared for Kansas City next week than knowing that we're only facing this opponent one time until the playoffs, right? Because that could be a potential. But hopefully, too, my other takeaway, our tackles continue to stay sharp. We continue to hold up against a pass rush like TJ Watt and with Alex Highsmith and with Cam Hayward and multiple others. That's not going to be an easy defensive front to have to hold up. So we're back in the trenches again. We have to fight in the trenches, and that's where we got to succeed up in the run game because they have been a very good rushing defense. They haven't allowed a ton, which is why I think this matchup, it serves an importance for us, because we know this is a key test to seeing what we are truthfully made of against another one of our division rivals, the Kansas City Chiefs. That's what it is. If we could do that, and if we could come away with this game with a win and be 3-0, and depending on how Kansas City looks, because Kansas City's got the Falcons, and I'm hoping Atlanta upsets their ass. I really do. I can't stand these fools. I really can't. And I hope Kirk Cousins does really well. And I have a very good feeling that I think the Falcons are going to really piss off Kansas City and do a solid for us, because we do have the Falcons this year. So I'm curious to see how that game goes up, but we got them for quite a while now. So we got plenty of time. My final thoughts upon the game, breaking it all down, it's going to be trench warfare, bloodbath battle. Maybe you'd like to throw the 300 theme song in this one because of how much the defenses on both sides are going to clash. So I think the Chargers, they're in a very good spot, 2-0. We've been riding the believe in Jim Harbaugh train right now, and so far so good. It's been looking great. And we have been nothing but excited. I believe that this team could potentially make this difference. Yeah, the spread is only 3. That's why I think it'll be a +3. Quinn Johnston may be receiver number 1 for this game. I'm more worried about their secondary is crazy good with Minka, Cam Sutton, and Dante Jackson are all ball hawks. Herbert has to be perfect. Yes, he does. He has to be perfect in these types of scenarios because you cannot afford to make a mistake against that secondary. So I think this will be a low-scoring game. I really do think so. I was thinking about it a couple times, and honestly, with the way that the betting line is and the over-under, there's a part of me that I think may want to end up taking the under for those dependent reasons and because of how our offense has been playing. But I think my final score up on this one, I do believe it'll be a field goal result at the end of the day. I'm going to take a 20-17 Chargers win on the road. Very hard. Could be pretty ugly to start with. But because of both defenses clashing, that's going to be the best battle I think that we'll have all night long. I really do. And yeah, Herbert is 18-0 when we give up under 20 points. So shouldn't this be a gimme? You would think. But I always have to think about what are the possibilities here. And then, yeah, Pittsburgh had all field goals against Denver. Yeah, they haven't even gotten to the point where they ended up scoring a touchdown, which is crazy. So, but that's why I'm like, because considering the toughness of their defense is what I'm thinking of. But I know we'll fight. I know it's going to be a tooth and nail. Guys are probably going to bleed, I'm sure. But those are the parts that I think we have to be prepared for. So that's my thought. Bolts come away with a win on the road, and we get ready for Kansas City. I'm going with that. All right? Trench warfare game. Once again, I think the Chargers are definitely going to succeed in it. So I'm excited about it, and especially because I have a couple friends of mine that are Pittsburgh Steelers fans, and that's one that I think they want to take away the most, but hell no. We're going to remind them that's not going to happen. Appreciate you guys for coming up on here, and shout out to DB over there at Steelers Syndicate. Love the work that he's been putting on with the Steelers Syndicate channel. Definitely check him out for all the Steelers stuff. Appreciate him for coming on by with yours truly, as always. Appreciate you guys for joining me here on a pre-game preview up on Friday night. Let's go and steal away this win because these are my victory shades. You know I always got to wear these shades every time that we win. So that's what I'm looking at it right now. It's signature. So let's get the victory shades up. Let's steal away a win, and let's come away with it, guys. We're meeting our goals. Like, subscribe, share it out, hit the bell button, keep you up to date, live streams, videos, and so much more. We're on the road to 1K right now. Also, follow us on Instagram and on X. Also, every Tuesday night, 6 p.m. Eastern, 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 Pacific, AFC West Roundtable. You guys do not want to end up missing out on that when yours truly represents the LA Chargers proudly. All right, let's come away with this win, guys, and let's take it to our opponents next week, the Kansas City Chiefs. I am waiting. I've been dying for this matchup to come up. So let's steal away the win and get ready for those bums in Kansas City. Hold the fuck up!